Hi, Internet viewers. Frank Rauscher again. I'm going to be starting a new project, but before I did that, or do that, I should say, I am going to do a Q&A. I had some comments from one of my subscribers asking me about explaining how I go about creating a pattern. And the pattern isn't an easy thing to get into. I have experience in a sense of doing this for a long time, too long maybe. But what I'm going to do is try to give you some information on how I do it and how I approach it. But you got to bear with me a little bit because it's somewhat of an experience. I tend to draw a lot, and I'll make sketches, and nothing's comes easy. The best thing that you can do is get reference material. And what I mean by that is when I first got started, I lived just outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, and the Academy of Natural Science has a lot of mounted birds. And I also, over the years, there was a game warden in my area that had quite a collection, went back into the 1800s, where I was able to borrow skins, which is not a bird taxidermed. It is taxidermed to an extent, but it doesn't have shape. It doesn't keep its shape. It just gives you the coloring, the measurements for some of the wings, how the feet are, what's the beak like, and stuff like that. And you can get that is great information if you have it. If you have some facilities like that around, that would be perfect. I was watching through the Ward Foundation. Larry Barth did a great presentation. If you get a chance on YouTube through like I said, the Ward Foundation, part of the World Show that they have in Ocean City, Maryland. I would recommend, if you ever get a chance to go to that show, it's usually the last weekend in April in Ocean City, Maryland. Fantastic show. You'll see some of the best. And Larry Barth is basically the best, okay? And he explained, he does a lot of his studying, and he knows birds inside and out, then some, but he has the facility where there is a tagging station, I believe he stated, that is near him, and they capture birds, and he's been called to their area so that he could visualize the birds or see the birds up front and close. And not everybody has that facilities for them to get measurements and things like that. And there is I wish I could remember the name of, there's probably sources. There's a birding organization, and I really should mention this maybe at a later date. I don't, I'm thinking it's Cornell something or another. They have almost all the information you want to know about birds, and they're ornithologists, like, to the supreme. And I don't know if they have information available to give out. Maybe they do. I've never used it. But if somebody has done that, if you could contact me and let me know, I'll pass that on to my viewers here so that you can create a better pattern. And the more information you have, I have like ducks that I've done some taxidermy work myself, and but the biggest problem with taxidermy is the bird is only as good as I should say, the taxidermist can make mistakes, okay, or doesn't get everything properly done. If you can get a live bird in front of you, that's great. I had done a class in bobwhite quail, and I was able to purchase them for breeding. You had it, and also you could get chicks and everything else. So I had them here so that my students could actually see the birds up front. But because I provide all the pattern work and everything else, they didn't have the difficulty of going through what I had to do to get the information. But there's a lot of ways around this. And I know the one subscriber asked me how I create the pattern. Well, it's not as easy as you would want it to be. Part of the problems with this is experience, and I'll try to give you some of my experience, but it's not the easiest. You have to know the birds. You have to be able to draw a little bit, and I'm going to give you as best I can the information. There's probably other ways of doing this. The other thing I've learned too, and I've never got into it, but in looking at this one video that Larry Barth had made through the Ward Foundation Ward Foundation, I should say, he does a lot of his stuff in clay. And then from there, once he gets everything just the way he wants it, then he goes into doing it in wood. Now, I started that, but I'm so impatient, and I've had the exposure of making my mistakes and everything else when I was younger, and so I just don't want to spend the time. He's more right on the money. I mean, if you want to do perfection, he's there as far as doing the piece. And it shows. I mean, he's world class. He really is. And in my case, as I say to you, you're learning from me, but you also can learn from everybody else out there. Everybody has a little different way of approaching it, and I'm going to try to give you the best way I can. I sort of make a pattern, and in knowing the birds, I'll study it for a while, and it's not like just putting pencil to paper and then bingo, there it is. I'm going to give you some ideas on how I do it and how I change the patterns or whatever to create this. And I'm also going to give you some reference material, okay? And this is one area that I'm going to try to show you is the books I use. I have, this is the National Geographic's book on the birds of North America, okay? And in here, I'm going to use as a subject matter the bird. I'm picking out the cardinal because I had done a cardinal before. You've seen me, I think I had presented to you the cardinal as a gift that I had done that was in a dome that I'm going to present as a Christmas gift. And you could also make these small ones to put on a tree as a tree ornament and what have you. And you can also do it as a silhouette rather than carving it out, and then just texturing it a little bit on one surface and then painting it. You don't really have to go all out like I do with every bird, but hey, that's me. You know, I love detail, and I tend to get into this. But this book here, I'm going to give you a few books, but it's almost any bird book that you may have. And I'm going to try to give you some info out of each one, just so that you have an idea where we're going here. In this case here, it gives you the bird. You can see the cardinal here, and then over here, this is North American, the northern cardinal. And up in they give you the length in centimeters, and they also give it to you in inches. And this has 8 3/4, okay, for this one. So here's what I do. I look at the pictures here, and I've known the bird, you know, as far as the shape. You almost want to try to get the bird in profile first. That sort of helps you out if you can get that in some picture. But if you go even on the internet and you call up birds, you can get some photo that's going to show you maybe a side view of the cardinal, you know, and that's a start. Now that 8 3/4 of an inch, I'm going to show you another book. This is a guide of field identification, birds of North America here. This is another one I used. And I use this as reference, but if you know, you're going to find out in a second here, when I open this book up and I look at this reference for this cardinal, it's almost in the profile position right here. And if I go over and I look at what they tell me on this cardinal, let's see. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Right here it's 7 3/4. So there's almost an inch difference between the two. And you can get a few books that are going to state different stories on the length of the bird. But that's a start. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to also show you what is very helpful. There are places out there where you can get patterns, okay? A friend of mine, MDI Woodcarvers, has patterns. Stiller patterns are out there. I believe they're owned by somebody else, but they're still under. If you looked up Stiller, you can get these patterns. Now, some of you want to change them too, and I'm going to try to show you how you could do that. And everybody does a pattern differently, okay? And I make my own, and I sell them out there, and I try to put measurements on them. In the case of the cardinal that I did, that I had a class in, here's one of them here. I put a lot of measurements in to try, and I also give you like a profile of the head, not in all cases, and how this is to scale now, and this is what I produce, okay? And this tries to get everybody off the ground as far as doing a cardinal. And there's ways of changing that too. And another book, and again, this is not, I showed you books where it had references about the cardinal, and you get a lot of background, where they're located, what areas they travel. They're very informative, and there's a million books out of there. And like I said, they all seem to have a different measurement. And what that measurement is, and let me give you that, just so we have some reference to it when we talk here. From the beak to the tail, the dimension across there is the measurement they're given, okay? So it's from here over to here. And each book has a different story to it as far as the length. So it's like humans, where some of us are tall, some of us are short, some are fat, some are Some of us are thin, and everything varies. So what I'm going to try to do as best I can is help you in making a pattern, and we'll go from there, and I'll try to guide you best as I can. The one other book I wanted to pick out, and there's a series of them. This is Rosalind Daisy's book. This one's Songbird Carving 2, and in this book, she does the cardinal. In fact, she does several birds. She does in this book all of these birds right here. She does the blue jay, the cardinal, the robin, and also I think it was the sparrow. And she does the female cardinal as well as the male cardinal. So you get that in here. And the thing I wanted to show you about her book is she has a lot of the drawings and patterns for the bird, okay? Some of them are similar to mine, but everybody picks a different pose. And in her case here, I had a drop wing in mine. And what I mean by that, her wings are coming across each other. They're almost laying on top of each other. So there's different ways of positioning the bird, okay? And she shows you this. And what's very informative, before she even gets into it, she gives you measurements and everything else. Here's like top view and bottom view and profile views and what have you. So that's all in here. And she gets very into actually what they would look like drawing wise now. These are really well done. And if I ever would recommend a book, and then I'm not going to go all through the whole book here, but she does give you measurements on everything in here. And then she gives you pictures with descriptions and how to do it, the layouts, how to make feet, everything else. It's an excellent book. She has a series of them. I do have these available. I have some of her other, she has books on the smaller songbirds. This is what I call the larger songbirds. And these are great. But it's not you making the patterns, okay? But there are patterns out there, and there's several people that have patterns available to you. And like I said, trying to make everything easy is not that easy, but I'll try to get that across to you as best I can, okay? So I'm gonna move the camera down so that you could see, and we'll talk from the sheet here and go from there, okay? Just a minute.